Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Lisa Castillo, and I'm the Executive Director of Choice. And with me, I have Dr. David Sines. He's our Chief Innovation Officer. We're going to go ahead and get started. So this presentation for you guys today is about forging pathways of choice, implementing all CCRSM school models as a district-wide strategy. In Fort Worth ISD, our mission is preparing all students for success in college, career, and community leadership. And our vision is igniting every child in a passion for learning. With Fort Worth ISD, our goal is always to make sure that we are creating great opportunities in every neighborhood, and that's really how we got this started. Next slide, please. In the System of Great Schools planning process, we've identified college and career readiness school models as a priority. So during this process, we analyze school performance, analyzing our community needs and demand. We evaluate and select appropriate school strategies, and then we plan school actions and improvements. Then we get to the great point of execution. So through this whole process, our idea of making sure that we have the quality seats, we did the quality seats analysis, really looking at what's working, what do our students and families want, making sure that as we're building our annual portfolio plan, that we are looking at the new programs, what should they be based on, which pathways are we looking at. And then again, when we're looking at school action plans, we then go into those next steps of what supports do we need to provide for our campuses when we're in planning stages, when we're during the implementation stages, and do we need to apply for grants? How are we going to fund these? So there's a lot of steps that go in to creating a district-wide college and career readiness school model program. And so we wanted to make sure that we're paying great attention to detail while we're working on this priority. Next slide, please. So our goal was to launch college and career readiness school models throughout the entire city. And in order to do that, and what that looks like for us is 16 different college and career readiness school models across the city of Fort Worth. Not only are they just school models, but they're also programs within schools. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But we also wanted to make sure that we were keeping our focus, on the enablers. They've really been key in driving this whole process and making sure that we're keeping an eye on lever 2 and lever 3. David, if you can hear and you want to jump in, I've just started this process.
No, thank you, Lisa. Can y'all hear me? Just wanted to make sure I just dialed in instead. For some reason, my computer audio was failing all of a sudden. So no, as you were saying, first of all, welcome everyone. David Sines, Chief Innovation Officer in Fort Worth. These two levers, take bold action to create and expand great options. It was one of the first things we thought about, and really we had started this work separately from SGS. And then as changes happened in Fort Worth, we actually brought this under our Office of Innovation umbrella, and we created that capacity that was needed to use this as one of our options for offering choices for our students and our families. With that, in order to exercise the great options, you have to have clear planning and implementation calendar and a pre-operation plan, and also a strategic talent pipeline. Now, the good news about using CCRSM models is that there's a lot of TEA support already around the models. So those of you that have authorized partners or working on partnerships, it is a lot of work, and it can be a lot of creating some of those systems, whether it's performance agreements or rubrics of how you're going to evaluate them. Well, the CCRSM models already have that built in. So it made a lot of sense for us to move this direction. Plus, we had already had success with these models before SGS. Of course, we want to empower families through school choice and access support. So we want to have equitable enrollment policies, which once again is a part of how CCRSM models are rated by the state. School choice information to be shared, and equitable enrollment processes for our families. This is something through our choice programs that Lisa's going to talk to you about. We have 13 choice schools in the district, and they've been around since 2008. Choice is not a new thing for Fort Worth ISD, but we wanted to enhance choice. Because as you'll see, there's a lot of students that are still on our waiting list, meaning we need to create more of these models. So with that said, we'll go to the next slide, and Lisa, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Okay, so with Fort Worth ISD, the Gold Seal Programs of Choice, we branded this back around 2010. Like David said, Choice has been around for a long time. We started our college and career readiness school models around 2008. And as those have built on and grown, like David said, we have 13 currently. Next year, we'll have 3 more in planning. And the goal of Gold Seal Programs of Choice is for students to work towards achieving that same set of college and career readiness standards for their pathway as they would in regular schools or in regular programs, but also adding in those supports and other pieces that will really help students propel themselves and strengthen their needs, strengthen their skills, strengthen their interests, and really be able to push forward into their next steps, whatever that may be in college and career readiness. In our QSA, we learned that 44% of Fort Worth ISD's rising 9th graders participated in the choice process, but only 3/4 of those students were actually assigned to a campus. And so the remaining of the students were placed on the wait list. And so that really opened our eyes quite a while back about, how do we leverage our schools that were already in place, that were schools of choice in areas of the community. We had 3 schools of choice. How do we leverage those school models and put them in our neighborhood campuses where we're bringing those great opportunities, those great seats to every neighborhood, and continue to expand our offerings to meet the demand of every student, where a school of choice across town might not be an option. Next slide, please. Go ahead, David, if you want to add to it.
No, I was going to add that in addition to that, I mean, our school choice options, are not always available to all students. Plus, they don't have all the various enrichment programs, whether it be fine arts or sports that our comprehensive high schools have. However, that shouldn't preclude our students from accessing these types of college and career readiness models at their home school. So that was a big driver as well, is how can I still be a part of football, basketball, the band, and other clubs that are usually present in large comprehensive high schools, but also have a school within a school option where I can exercise some of this choice and have an early college experience.
That's a perfect segue to this next slide, David. So with our schools of choice, they're exactly what David's talking about. They're schools that are separate that probably don't have athletics. They might not have all the bells and whistles your normal high school experience. They are hyper-focused on different areas like CCRSM, CTE, visual and performing arts. We have single gender, world languages, applied learning, Montessori. We have all these great schools of choice, but students don't always want to leave their neighborhood and go to a school of choice. They might want to stay in their own neighborhood, which is where we have our programs of choice, where we also have these same type models. The CCRSM, we're adding on new tech next year, CTE, advanced academic experiences. We have a lot of great opportunities for students. And again, using that CCRSM model across the district really opens doors for students. Next slide. So with college and career readiness school models, there are 3 current school models. We went ahead and threw new tech in there, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But the college and career readiness school models, we have early college high school, we have PTech early college high school, which is Pathways in Technology early college high school. We have T-STEM and then new tech. So where you'll see the differences, and we'll get a little bit more into details here in just a second, but with ECHS, those students are going to work towards a college degree. So they're working towards that associate degree that's usually a general or a content-based type of degree. So they'll be receiving dual credit, earning their high school diploma and up to or through their college credits. With PTech adds on our pieces like work-based learning. They have the ability to layer on different pieces like their certifications. They have the ability to add on credentials, and they really get that work-based learning experience on top of the ability to earn that associate's degree. And then with T-STEM, again, that is more T-STEM focused, not as heavily focused on earning that degree. Now, what you see here on this first map that we're showing you, these are our starter schools. And so if you look at them, you've got the blue highlights our A-rated campuses, green is B, C is yellow, D is orange, and F is red. And so when you look at this, what we're showing you here is these are our high schools across the city, and including Fort Worth ISD's high schools and Young Men's Leadership Academy, which is a 6 through 12 campus. And so when you look at these different campuses, you'll see our A-rated campuses, our engineering and T-STEM at IM Terrell, our robotics and automation T-STEM at Young Men's, our energy PTech at TCC South, our biomedical focused early college high school, and then our general early college high school at Marine Creek. What I want you to notice here is with these campuses, particularly with Marine Creek, with TABS, and with Tarrant County College South, those were our initial 3 schools of choice, 2 of them ECHS, 1 PTech. And you'll notice again that they're all blue, so they are our A-rated campuses. What we have found across Fort Worth is our smaller communities, schools, our SOCs tend to perform very highly. And again, that's one of the things we really wanted to look at as we started thinking about how do we replicate this model across the city, and how do we really leverage, again, leverage what we're doing on these campuses as far as student support and bring those to every neighborhood. Next slide. And so now you're looking at our programs of choice. So the last one's our schools of choice. This one's our programs of choice. So this is where you see us taking it to each of the neighborhoods. And so you can see as we started shifting through, we've added on construction, IT and networking, cybersecurity. Our manufacturing PTech is actually partnered with Bell Helicopter. And with Bell, we are working on manufacturing and aeronautics. So they're building helicopters and really doing the advanced manufacturing pieces there. We're also expanding ECHS to other neighborhood campuses like OD Wyatt. Dunbar has a section of ECHS, and Southwest has ECHS. We also have other PTechs around the city in business, software development, medical. And then again, we've got that new tech out there at Western Hills High School, which will be one of our new campuses that's rolling out a new program next year. So as you'll see when you look at these, I think another important thing to note is as you're doing this, you have to be very strategic in making sure that you're picking the right partners for the right city, for the right pathway, to make sure that it all aligns appropriately. And then again, we want to raise up our campuses that are going to need that extra help with CCMR, making sure that we're really giving these students a great opportunity. And so when you look at each of these campuses, you'll notice that we really focused on our C and D rated campuses throughout the city to really help elevate another opportunity for advanced academics at those campuses. Next slide, please. All right, so you'll notice we talked a lot about all of our different campuses, and what you saw probably, or what you noticed, was a lot of PTechs. So a few ECHSs, a few T-STEMs, 1 new tech, but PTech is running rampant. This is very intentional on our part. And here's why. When you look at our PTech focus, we're very specific when we're looking at our students and offering them the highest ability to really get involved in their education, post-secondary education, and high school education. And how does that all wrap up together? So when you look at this, TCC South was actually our first PTech. I was the founding principal at that school. And when I started, we were in early college high school. And about halfway through, we started thinking and really talking to our students, and our students were telling us that they felt like the piece that was missing was that hands-on learning, that opportunity to make contacts with industry and really learn trades, as well as getting that associate degree. So really having these layers. So that's where we made a shift at TCC South and went for PTech designation versus ECHS designation. And again, here's the why. So when you look at the opportunities for students, they start high school and they're able to get industry certifications, industry credentials, their high school diploma, and associate's degree. All of that is partnered with work-based learning at every grade level. They're learning industry skills. They get to job shadow and do internships. All of this is highly connected, not only with their K-12 institution and their higher education institution, but it also partners them with a industry partner who they are working with from the 9th grade all the way to graduation and possibly through graduation. As one of the caveats for PTech designation is that you have to sign on a memorandum of understanding partner who will offer to do preferential interviews or preferential hiring of your students who complete any part of the process. So it could be that they get that certification that makes them eligible for that job upon graduation, and we've created that pipeline right to high wage, high demand careers. So that really is why we are doing a very heavy focus on PTech, because the students can get it all. And all of it ends in being ready for interviews, being ready for career, being ready for scholarships, and being ready to move on to the university level. Next slide, please. So our CCRSM process and structure, really it's very important to make sure as you're building these programs, as you're thinking about doing it district-wide, if you're starting with one or none, the important thing to remember is that you really have to have district and technical support every step of the way. TEA provides that technical support, but you also have to have the district infrastructure to be able to do that. The process very quickly, just the 40,000-foot view, is you have to submit a planning year application. So all CCRSM campuses have to go through a planning year. As you go through that planning year, you're really building up your programs. It's very scripted out as to the pieces you need to do when and how. You utilize your technical support provider to make sure that you're meeting all those requirements. And then during that official planning year, that's really where you start digging in, meeting your partners, making those connections. That leadership team and that technical assistance team will plan and implement together. So technical support doesn't end after your planning year. They still stay with you and keep moving you through and helping you create through the 6 benchmarks of the CCRSM campuses. It really helps you embed those benchmarks into your school structures, into your planning and implementation. And then finally, it's important every year, what you need to know about CCRSM is you reapply every year. You have to be making sure that you are meeting those outcome-based measures. So your infrastructure as far as how you recruit, how you assign students, and making sure that we are serving the right population. For CCRSM, just for if you're not really knowing about CCRSM, it is absolutely critical that you are recruiting and maintaining at-risk students as well as low socioeconomic students, with, again, the heightened focus on serving the underrepresented students as well. Next slide, please. Awesome. So how do we choose to implement our CTE pathways as a PTech? So the things that we do is we first look at the labor market. We look at the Chamber of Commerce, working directly with them, and Texas Workforce Commission, Texas Workforce Solutions, and really looking at the pathways that we have at our high school campuses. What are we finding success at? What are the students really liking? You know, where do we have great teachers already that we can align and bring in the extra pieces of the PTech? So bringing in the industry partners to really, we call it CTE on steroids. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but really utilize what you're already doing great in your district and build on it. Then we also want to make sure that we're integrating the rigorous core academics as well as the career-focused learning. The key here is making sure that you're working with your higher ed partner as well as your industry partner when you articulate those pathways to your dual credit classes. Having great higher ed partners and having great industry partners who will be with you every step of the way through planning and implementation is absolutely key. Those are one of that's the biggest piece, honestly, that we feel like has made our PTech launches successful, is picking the right partners and really digging in together and it being a team mentality. I'll tell you just a little story. We actually took a group of people to New York to visit the first PTechs, because that's where PTech began. And when we took that group with us to New York, we actually visited with industry partners, and we went into what we thought was a high school. And we went in and we were visiting and we were watching adults and students working side by side. And sometimes you really couldn't tell who the adults were and who the students were, because they were all working together, and you know, they were all dressed pretty much alike, and it just was really this great cohesive opportunity for kids. What we loved about it at the end of that meeting, we realized that we were actually in an advertising agency. We were not at a school. And some of the people that we were talking to that we thought were the adults were the children. And some of the children we were talking to, we thought were the adults. And so really that just tells you what a beautiful relationship it can be and why it's so important to have those really tight relationships with your partners. So again, you want to make sure that you're linking these to your certifications and credentials based on labor market value. So I know we have the TEA list of the different certifications that will give you the CCM indicator for students. Don't be afraid to look beyond that. If there are valuable credentials or valuable certifications that students can earn but might not be on that list, really work with your industry partners, because what we are trying to do is make sure that our students are labor market ready to be hired when they are ready. So if they are ready right after high school, we want them to be able to go to work and earn that higher wage. And again, making sure that continuum of work-based learning each year is going to get better and better and better. So if you start your freshman year with hands-on experiences, labs with your industry partner, going on industry partner visits, having industry partners come in and talk to your students, that's a great start. Next year, it has to be bigger and better. The next year, it has to be bigger and better. And it always has to really keep raising those students up. And then focusing on the expansion of education and employment options that are available to Fort Worth ISD students. So make sure you have a really clear mindset on where your students are going to be able to get hired immediately, where they can work through. And with this one, it's really important for me to work with industry partners who are also willing to do tuition reimbursement once they hire our students, so they can continue on their education and not have an added expense later if possible. Next slide, please. Okay, so industry partner identification. Who does it? Why do we do it? And how do we do it? So who does it? This is everyone. So we do a collective effort in our district. We work between our CCRSM school leader, our leadership team, the Fort Worth ISD leadership team. We reach out to everyone. If I know someone in the aeronautics field, I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, here's what we're doing. How can you help us? I even reach out to our teachers. Teachers, who do you know? It's amazing that 6 degrees of separation, we all know so many people. You can absolutely use that to bring in industry partners. Why is it so important? Because our educational opportunities with our industry leaders create that understanding. When our industry partners come in and work with our students starting in the 9th grade, not only do they learn those students in every step of the way, get to see them grow and build, they're actually getting to help us train the next leaders in their industry, which makes them hireable, and also is a way for our industry partners to lessen their expense of having to hire someone and spend a great deal training them once they hire them on. And then the how do we do this? So we align with our nearby industry partners. We work with our schools to make sure that we do have partnerships that are right there in the neighborhood, so that we can have that ease of mentoring and internships. A lot of our students here in Fort Worth ISD don't necessarily have cars, and so they need to be close to where they can do internships, and we need to work with them on that. Okay, next slide. So making CCRSM a reality. As we go through the process, the first thing we do, we create the opportunity by going through all of the process we've talked about before, identifying partners, what does it look like as far as what school needs to be placed where. But then it's really important to get your CCRSM leader on campus and committed to the program as early as possible. And when I say committed to the program, we talk about champions a lot. If you don't have a champion for your program, it's going to be really hard to get it off the ground. So you have to find the right person who's going to love the program, love the kids, and be the voice and the face of your program to really bring it all together. Then you go through your planning year with the CCRSM blueprint. They also give you a roadmap to opening, which is very helpful. It's a timeline. You set up work groups. I will tell you, when we opened the first PTech, I had a staff of about 13 teachers that were working on it. They all worked together, but we also had upwards of 50 people at any given time, all working together on that CCRSM planning year. And a lot of those people were our industry partners, our higher ed partners. And so they were really working with us hand in hand. So it was a very team effort. and it helped us to really push things forward and see it from multiple lenses. With your planning your work groups, for us, the importance that you need to have about a minimum of 4 work groups, and we say a good size is 6 to make sure you encompass everything. Definitely curriculum and instruction to make sure they're developing the right pathways and the crosswalks, professional development and student supports. You need to have a partnerships planning group. That work group will really work with your partners in solidifying those memorandums of understandings with both your higher ed and your industry partners. So it's important to have both of those people, both of those different institutions represented in this work group. Budget and CIP, you want to make sure that you're really adding into your campus improvement plan all of the things that are important to PTech, so that you can make sure if you have any Title I funds that you can utilize, that option will be available as well. And making sure that we're addressing campus needs as we're building the program. Summer Bridge, all of our programs have a 2-week Summer Bridge experience for all of our students as they're coming in as freshmen. And then the Summer Bridge evolves and alters a little bit for students to meet their needs as they go through the rest of their high school career. You have a marketing and recruitment group as well as a work-based learning group. Okay, next slide. All right, so how does this address, or how does CCRSM Expansion address the QSA? And so for us, it really is about increasing student interest in advanced academics. You know, how do we help students, number one, believe in themselves that they can do this work, understand that it is right here at their fingertips, and that we are also there to provide the supports for our students to make sure that they are able to be successful in every step of the way. The way that works for us is we really focus on student achievement, student progress, closing the gaps. You'll see as you work through CCRSM programs, intrinsically, they close those gaps for these students. It increases supports, it increases achievement, not just in STAR or TSI, but it really increases student achievement as far as being ready learners, being college and career ready, being ready for the world, and being leaders in the world. So it really does improve achievement on all angles, not just testing achievement. It improves our CCMR rating for the district. Our students are 100%, when we have our graduating class at each of these CCRSMs, they're 100% CCMR met. So it really does push that. And it is very important, and it is automatically built into your plan. And then again, it increases that student connection to high wage, high demand careers in North Texas. And the added benefit for us is it's changing the lens of poverty. It's changing the landscape of poverty in our city. And it really is connecting students. I will tell you, one of my first students who graduated from these programs, she came in my office and said, "Ms. Castillo, you just changed my entire family's world. Upon graduation, I'm going to go and finish my college degree in less than 2 years. I'm going to be a teacher in a classroom in less than 2 years, making $50,000 plus in less than 2 years. I will be 20 years old, making $50,000 a year as a teacher." And she said, "My mom and dad combined make $26,000 a year." She said, "Now my family's not going to have to worry about how we're getting our next meal." And talk about tears. That's really all about changing the world of our students, and how can we add value to the education they're getting while in high school. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to show you a video. This is a highlight of our current ECHS and PTech programs, and I hope you enjoy it. So a couple minutes.
Hello parents and students, this is Superintendent Kent Scribner. Thank you for watching this short video about 2 extraordinary Fort Worth ISD Gold Seal choices. They're innovative models of learning that are leading the way in preparing students for college and the modern workforce. Early college high schools and Pathways in Technology, or PTech early college high schools. And all are golden. Just watch.
Early College High School and PTech Early College High Schools offer students opportunities to earn up to an associate degree while in high school. in partnership with colleges, universities, and Fort Worth ISD. All tuition fees, resources, and books are provided for students at no cost, which saves families 2 years' worth of college expenses. Summer bridge opportunities prepare students for their college courses. Courses are taught by instructors from Fort Worth ISD, Tarrant County College, or Texas Wesleyan University. There's specialized accelerated learning in smaller settings, academic supports, and social-emotional supports for students. So which model works best for your students' goals and dreams? Let's take a closer look. Starting with early college high schools, where students receive college credit up to an associate degree while in high school, accelerated learning, specialized study skills that prepare them for university admission and scholarships, as well as the opportunity to enter the workplace with college credit hours. Our early college high schools include 2 schools of choice on college campuses: Marine Creek Collegiate Academy at Tarrant County College Northwest Campus, and the Texas Academy of Biomedical Sciences at TCC Trinity River. 3 programs of choice, early college high school academies, are located within traditional high schools. Dunbar High School, partnering with Texas Wesleyan, O.D. Wyatt, a partner with TCC South, and Southwest High School, also a partner with TCC South. PTech early college high schools provide the same opportunities as early college high schools, plus work-based, hands-on learning. So PTech students not only earn college credits, they also build industry skill sets, participate in job shadowing and internships, and earn certifications, industry credentials, their high school diploma, and up to an associate degree. These experiences help students transition onto university campuses or directly into careers where they receive preferential interviews with dynamic industry partners. Our PTech early college high schools include a college-based school of choice. It's TCC South Fort Worth ISD Collegiate High School, an energy and renewable resources PTech located at the TCC South campus and partnering with Encore Electric and the City of Fort Worth Water. We also have multiple PTech academies at traditional high schools and covering a wide range of industries. They are Carter Riverside High School, Computer Maintenance and Networking PTech, partnered with Maytech and Fort Worth ISD. Diamond Hill Jarvis High School, Architecture, Construction, and Logistics PTech, partnered with Habitat for Humanity and Magna Technical. Dunbar High School, Manufacturing PTech, partnered with Bell Textron, Texas Wesleyan University, and TCC Trinity River. Eastern Hills High School, Cybersecurity PTech, partnered with McAfee. Northside High School, Healthcare PTech, partnered with the James L. West Center. Polytechnic High School, Education PTech, partnered with the University of North Texas and Fort Worth ISD. And South Hills High School, User Experience and Software Development PTech, partnered with Maytech. As you can see, both models offer an outstanding high school education and extensive preparation for students to continue their pursuit of excellence in college and the modern workforce, right here in North Texas.
Parents and students, you can learn more at fwisd.org/choice, including how to apply to an early college high school or PTech early college high school. Thank you again for your interest.
Awesome, thank you. Next slide. So I've got my information here for you. You are always more than welcome to email me or call my office if you have any questions beyond this meeting. But now I would love to turn it over and answer any questions you may have. You can also put them in the chat if you'd like to do that. And I'm excited to help out any way I can.
I have a question while people are getting warmed up.
Thanks, Tony.
You mentioned earlier the TEA list of approved credentials. I think that's the language you use, but you said don't be afraid to step outside of that list. I'm just curious, do you have examples of where you all have gone off of the list or areas that you think people should think about?
Sure. So when we started PTech, OSHA 10 was on the list, but OSHA 30 was on the list, I think. I'm going to get it backwards here. One of the OSHAs was on the list and one wasn't. And I think it was the OSHA 10 was on the list, but the OSHA 30 wasn't. And we went ahead and based on what the industry partner was asking for, we went ahead and went with that. There are also a lot of cybersecurity certifications that are not on the TEA list. I mean, the number is huge. And a lot of those are really, really important for those students to be able to go to work and get the highest wage, highest demand jobs. And so we really wanted to focus on making sure we offer those as much as possible. And so again, we hear every day from our industry partners about certifications that are not on that list that are important. So I would definitely lean on your industry partners there. And in the chat, I see, can we share the list? Absolutely. Also in your district, I'm sure if you reach out to your CTE director, they will absolutely have that list because they use that quite a bit. So thank you for that question, Star, but I'm absolutely happy to share. Awesome. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, just kudos to you all for, as the chat says, taking this work to the next level and leaning into your district's role as an engine for economic mobility for citizens in Fort Worth. So inspirational and learning so much from you all. I was wondering if you could speak to how you all thought about kind of leaning into what sounds like the TEA sponsored PTech work and what benefits you found from kind of joining up with that initiative, and also where has that been challenging to navigate as you're trying to deliver on your specific district's vision for this work?
Sure. So the way that all this started, when I was hired on to be the founding principal of an ECHS, I came in not ever having the experience of running a CCRSM, and we started from the ground up. I fell in love with the processes that TEA has laid out because they do make it very streamlined, and it is really focused on meeting the needs of underrepresented students, but it doesn't create barriers to non-underrepresented students. It really gives you the opportunity to make sure that you have a heightened focus on serving students who need it the most versus serving students who could go out and get that college degree, on their own. And it gives you that catalyst to be hypersensitive to meeting those needs. What I will say is that was also in and of itself the challenge. And so the way that the blueprint is laid out in the outcome-based measures, it asks you to be within a certain percentage of your district's at-risk percentage. Within a certain percentage of your district's economically disadvantaged. When we started this process years ago, they also had specific percentages that you needed to be in line with as far as male students, African-American students, Hispanic students. And so they had percentages on all of those. And the challenge that we saw in that back then was that in a neighborhood that didn't have very many Hispanic students, it was very hard for us to meet that number. And likewise, in a neighborhood where students had mostly Hispanic students versus African-American, it was difficult to meet those outcome-based measures. And that was one of the reasons I believe TEA evolved. And so that's been one of the great things of working with TEA is that they're really listening to what campuses and districts need to continue these models and make them more robust and really bring the needs to the students, meet the students' needs as we roll them out. And so for me, I think having the structures in place, having the technical support assistance in place from TEA, all of that is super, super helpful. Any other questions? Thank you, Tony, for placing that in the list or in the chat. So starting place for TEA CCRSM is in the chat. Also, just an FYI, I did drop in some documents on this particular presentation, and so they are in the presentation structure. And so if you would like to pull some of those you are more than welcome to do that. And also, like I said, I've got my information here. You're more than welcome to reach out if you need any documents moving forward, starting documents, ending documents. We've got it all. Any other questions? I can do a song and dance. All right.
Lisa,
Yay.
I
Yes.
do have a question.
Sure.
Lupita in Spring, just thinking, and we have an early college high school that's extremely successful, and we went through the planning year for our PTech, and we will be bringing our first 100 students this coming fall. So my question is,
congratulations.
yes, so we're just starting the process and really interested in expanding the PTech models like you have in the comprehensive high schools. My question for you is funding sources. What are your funding sources, not only for the tuition and textbooks, but as you get into these different CTE fields, the fees and the equipment and all of that, it's huge. How has Fort Worth really attacked that? And now that you have so many, what funding sources are you using?
Sure. So we're using all of it. When we start looking at our funding sources, we have applied for grants as much as possible. And so when we started TCC South's PTech, we got the planning and implementation grant there. And so we worked through those. We actually were just awarded a planning and implementation grant for a new PTech and a new T-STEM that will be going into planning year next year. Also, we've relied very heavily on it being a joint effort. So we use CTE funds, we use our 199, we use Title I where we can, Title IV where we can. One of the things that we also did is we had ERS come in and do an efficiency study with our district. And what they found was at the end of the day, our ECHS and PTech campuses were actually running much more efficiently than they thought, and that it actually was saving the district money. And here's how. So when we went into our conversations with our higher ed partner, we worked out a deal where they would waive the tuition for us for our ECHS and PTech students, and we would pay for the books. Now, with some of them, we do pay like a housing fee, for instance, if we are on a particular campus. So one of our standalone models is actually on a college campus, and we pay a fee there. And so that's about $50,000, and we take that out of 199. And so, but usually using the offset of what we would be paying in traditional dual credit has really been a huge benefit to us for our partner to waive that. Other things that we've done is we've worked with our industry partners and said, what equipment could you donate? What equipment would you like to fund? Can you buy us t-shirts for Summer Bridge? We pull out all the stops. And so, I really think it's just being outside the box and being inventive and just squeezing every penny where you can, and then being efficient where you squeeze those pennies. So like with textbooks, we have now worked with TCC, our higher ed partner, to do TCC. It's basically online textbooks. So instead of buying physical textbooks, we're doing the open resources where we can and doing online textbooks to, again, drop down the amount that we're having to spend there.
Thank you. And you hit the what is it, the nail on the head. Textbooks are so very expensive, and especially because we do have college professors and they tend to change textbooks more often. So in our MOU, we've been working on, setting a time frame because we can't, purchase textbooks every year. it wipes out our budget. So yeah.
Absolutely. That is critical. That is critical to have that in your MOU and have it very well scripted out. How long do you keep textbooks? Who's required to keep those textbooks? You know, for if we're using our embedded instructors, which we try to do quite often, where it's we pay their salary, they teach the courses, and we're using their resources. But if there's a list, you know, that they're picking resources, how can we, you know, make sure that we're using the same resources over time? I love the open resources comment. Absolutely. And as we are finding with our higher ed partner, they are becoming more and more open to using open resources, which is critical to, you know, sustainability for these programs. You know, I would definitely say, you know, work with your higher ed partner. And I think sometimes they don't realize, because they're not in the business of purchasing textbooks, so they don't realize what an expense it is. And so I would, every semester, as the principal of an early college high school, I would go to my higher ed partner and say, here's my $180,000 bill for textbooks this semester. Can I have your instructors please stick to one textbook for the next 3 years? And so then we made sure that we just really evolved our MOU to make sure that it matched to be sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been our heartache. It is so very expensive. I like taking that bill down there.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Any other questions? All right, Tony, are we out of time? Man, that went fast.
Yeah, you were getting such good questions. I didn't want to stop you, but yeah, we are about 2 minutes past time. So I'll go ahead and stop recording and stop sharing, and just thank you for your time. This was really great. I learned a lot.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you all that were here. And again, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help.